Believe me, I've said worse.
And the other one is, oh, there you have all the benches.
Oh,
Sure you can-
Perfect. Yes, we will. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, we are open and we recorded a couple times. Okay, so we have previous select board minutes up first. Did you guys get a chance to look through them? Do you need a minute?
Yes, I do. I moved that, we moved that from as written.
All right, so second, that motion for December 4th minutes. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, there you go. All right, so we are gonna try to move along tonight. We have two interviews we're doing tonight, because Jess had a family emergency, so we're gonna interview her. Is it Jess or Jessie? Jessie. Jessie had a family emergency, so we're gonna interview her next week on Monday. But we will be doing the other two interviews. Thank you. All right, having said that, is there a audience participation, public comment? All right, you got 3 minutes, George. Come on down. Okay.
Took a moment or two today to write a letter to the Board of Selectmen. Select Board, I'll read it to you. Dear members, I'm writing to acknowledge and thank Select Board Member Jeff Allen for taking a leadership role in organizing and completing the fall cleanup of Bicentennial Park. It is with my understanding that this cleanup took considerable time and involved the volunteer participation of Mr. Allen's family members and perhaps others. Mr. Allen's observation of the deteriorating conditions of the park, organized and planned for appropriate response and carried out the plan, resulting in a much more appealing place for our community to enjoy this winter.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank
That's
you.
all I had to say.
I got a quick question. Somebody bought, did anybody know, somebody bought a new bench for there and dropped it off? Nobody's come forward. So there's a third bench there that's probably a month old.
Oh,
I had them brought up to the highway, the park, so they're out of the weather. Dougie picked them up, so I gotta thank them for that, and
The red bench, I noticed a few weeks ago, needed work.
the one over near the stone wall.
Yeah,
Yeah, I rebuilt the other one.
yeah.
I didn't get that.
I'd be willing to rebuild the one next to the stone wall if you and I can get together and I'll pick it up.
Yeah, so I don't know how to get in there, we have to get a hold of Doug, but yeah, that'd be much
I'm
appreciated.
glad to do that because that's
Yep.
iron.
Yep, perfect,
thanks, George.
thank you.
Thank you, George.
Come on down.
Lloyd Martin, 89 Chester Road.
Hi, Lloyd.
Recently we've had an incident, and even Saturday, a second incident pertaining to hunters.
Oh, okay.
It is my belief that when someone goes to hunt in Blandford, they should be able to get that form, either here in town, whatever, go to the landowner where they wish to park their vehicle,
Okay.
if that's right or wrong, or hunt,
Mhm.
and get the signature.
Mhm.
And therefore, once that's acquired, put a copy in their dash of their truck,
Mhm.
everyone gets a copy, okay? There's been a group of individuals over the years, that's the same folks, who think they don't have to.
Okay.
Now, they hunt on the state forest property, which they have a right to go on the state forest. However, they are parking on my property, there's 2 cell phone towers. One is on mine, one is next door. One next door to the AT&T tower.
Okay.
They park on that lane.
Okay.
When questioned, do they have permit to park there, knowing darn well they don't. We don't need a permit. The F-bombs start flying, you're harassing me. Threatening gestures, so on and so forth.
Okay.
And they claim they have a signature from a representative from AT&T, which there's no way. I can't even find a representative from AT&T to talk to. And right next door.
Mhm.
And I also have a tower on my property, so I have reason to be able to talk to them. So, my thing is, after this year's threatening gestures by these guys, enough is enough.
Mhm.
How powerful is that form that you're looking at right there, that they need to fill out?
So does
what-
this form get given out by the Conservation Commission when they,
The conservation, I checked with the commission, and they fill those out for their land.
Uh-huh.
So you have the 3 properties that
Okay.
they have.
Yeah.
Okay, but they're not responsible for the state forest or anywhere else.
so these hunters have gotten a permit for the state forest?
No, they don't need
They don't need a
a form
permit for that.
for it. It's where they park their vehicles that they need.
So they, I don't know where they would get this from, coming to town then.
Typically, town office from what in past,
Well,
I don't know which department,
They had a big sign up here. For all the hunters.
for the hunting permits,
well,
but not
that's-
for the,
Well, that's the same thing. It's the hunting permit. Landownership
No.
permit.
Yeah, well, that's for
It's all got-
individual landowners,
Yes,
but
I don't think it's,
who,
I know.
what I don't understand, all right, is that. Does the landowner come and get one of these if he's allowing hunting on his land? Or does the hunter come here and they go to the landowner? I don't,
Well, when I did it 2 years
Yeah.
ago, we had to have it and go to the landowner ourselves and have
Yeah,
them sign
okay,
it.
all right.
yeah.
And then
sign it.
they had one for, and we always left one in the windshield.
And did you get this from conservation?
No, it was
No.
right in the front of the office.
So there was
I
just
think,
like-
a-
So it should be available here because when
Okay.
people ask me, it's. Get the paperwork and I'll
Yeah.
bring it in and I'll sign it and here are the things you should know about.
Okay.
And they're happy with that.
Okay, did you have something? Joe?
I pass that form out periodically.
Oh, you do, okay, good, okay. So I think, have you reached out to the town police about the
Uh,
confrontations?
No, I have not, because. Let's just say it's sometimes it's better to walk away and not say anything and let matters lie, but in this case. When the threats are. Reoccurring,
Yeah, I would definitely reach out,
that's kind of tough to fall asleep at night,
yeah,
put it that way.
okay.
That way you'd have something documented too.
Mhm.
Okay,
So
Yeah,
I think that's absolutely the right way to go. Seriously.
yes,
So I was made aware of this last week
okay,
and I think. Well, you had first reached out to conservation, right?
correct.
And it's Dick Gates,
Dick Gates, yep. He explained his
yeah. the-
side and what
they-
he's
they have nothing to
responsible
do with
for,
private property.
yeah,
right?
okay,
And when I learned that there were. It was a little bit more and there were some threatening gestures.
yeah,
Statements made, so I contacted the police chief, so she's aware.
oh, good, thank you, okay,
And so I don't know any more than that.
Okay.
But I let her know about it last Thursday.
okay,
And apparently. It's happened on the other side of town to another lady
Okay.
as well. So I can't speak up for that party,
yeah,
but I'm speaking up for myself because I'm just tired of,
okay,
all I have to do is get permission, get the writing down
yeah, so
But-
for this one, they would have to get permission from AT&T.
from the landowner.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Not the land renter.
Yeah.
That's
I don't
up to
know who the landowner even is there.
So
AT&T.
if the,
Not that whole lot.
14 acres,
They own 14.
10 acres of that.
so if the state, if the area that is giving the hunting license, they don't have parking that comes with that, there's not like a allocated parking space?
Not really,
Something
they
like
don't
on the
have,
property?
they don't have frontage.
They don't
Okay.
have frontage, no.
Okay. So I think we should probably get some information out, reminding people that they need. To come to town hall to pick up, the form, which is in the front office with Joanne. And have the landowner fill it out. And. The police are already aware.
I believe, when this first came out in the town, the following years. There was a sign posted, entry, enter Blanford from whatever direction,
Okay,
that according to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You must have written permission.
okay,
I don't see those
For
signs
park.
anymore.
okay.
I don't think they've been there for 30 years, have they?
No, but when this first started out and the town voted for it, I remember signs are going up and,
I think Russell has the same thing. You have to sign up to hunt like the Russell watershed.
okay,
Across from the ski area up in it.
Mhm.
So maybe we could contact someone down there and see what they're running into. If there's any-
Their process
Just to help,
is. Okay.
just to help us along. This is probably, I don't know, a few times this has come up that I know
Yeah.
of, but
Yes, sure.
Lloyd tells me that, the police tell him that they can't do anything about it, if somebody's hunting with you, why can't police do something?
Yeah, if they're parking without the permit.
Well, it would be EPOs, but right protection officers, they can do anything they want.
We don't have any of those hanging around.
Call them, show them. They're that good.
Usually hunting season, they're everywhere.
Yeah, I saw them go by the house today, not that, I don't know where they're going, but.
So I would say if it happens again, definitely call the police. And make sure they have license number and all that stuff. We'll get the word out about this. I'm not sure quite what else, we can do at this
but
point.
I think the signage is important. So hunters are aware when they
Mhm.
cross the border that, okay, you've got to be on the lookout for this.
I don't know.
And chase down the paperwork. That's all it is. It's
Yeah.
chasing down paperwork. How hard can that be?
Well, like even something like in the Blanford part of the Country Journal. If you're planning on hunting in Blanford, a couple of weeks before, this is what you need to do.
We can, I don't know, does that sign, are we still putting stuff on that older sign, Joanne, do you know? The COA sign? The one where we have to put the letters out, because we're in the process of getting the digital sign, it's kind of on hold right now because we're waiting on. It's being tied to the library,
Oh, you're talking
patio.
about the one at the post office.
Yeah. Yeah, so if that would be our only signage option, so we can definitely talk to Council on Aging about putting something on there. So that people can see it when they drive in, we will be eventually have the digital one, we just don't really have that as an option right now.
And then what power do the police authority have when they see this and they have one?
Yeah, I
mean,
don't know.
So, just a quick question, they're parked on AT&T's land,
Correct.
so you have no authority to say anything about them. AT&T would have to be the one to put something out against those people parking there. Am I not correct?
I'm not sure how that would work.
Pretty
Yeah.
sure.
My concern is the way,
I understand your concern, but I don't think that anything,
Yeah,
would be done because they're parking next to your land.
right,
That's.
but the thing of it is, Jeff. Last fall, 2 pickup trucks drove right into that, all the way down to the tower and got out and. After a while, you hear 2 shots go off. No more than 30 seconds later, it's a war zone. They're driving. Okay, when I went out into my field to look down below, and there's one gentleman standing on the edge of my field. Waiting. I'm just wondering. Was he out there because he was tired and didn't feel like going through the woods? Or was he told to watch the field for a shot? So right there, you walk on my property in Orange.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna check with my neighbors.
yeah,
If my neighbor had been that, I would say, hey, come on, you should tell him.
No, you're 100%
But
right.
in this case with AT&T, there's no communication, so I have to watch my backside.
No, I understand. I just meant,
Yes,
we could call it in and say, hey, these guys are here. Can you look into it or something? They probably could find out exactly who owned it real quick,
so we
Yeah.
can,
but yeah.
we can talk to, try to put something on the board out here and then maybe post something at the Blanford store. I'm thinking people likely will stop at the Blanford store on the way in. Maybe post something there asking people to make sure that they have a permit for whatever land. And
Website?
and the website would be good, yeah.
Yeah,
If we,
absolutely.
would you mind sending something to, do you know Wendy? It's Wendy, yeah, she would be the one. Thank you, sorry that, I don't have more, I don't know what weight this has, we could ask, our attorneys, we could reach out and ask that.
The hardest part is the enforcement.
Yeah.
If the environmental police are out, if we had a number for them, because that would fall into their domain, something like that, but I don't know, how the enforcement is the problem.
I apologize to those hunters who do go through the process and do things the right way. It's the guys who. No, I'm sorry.
You don't have to be sorry.
Sorry, you're just protecting yourself.
That's right.
What's the problem with that?
And that should be it.
Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
have a good evening.
You too. All right. Mary, yes.
Before Lloyd leaves, this is a problem of people parking on AT&T property in order to access the state forest.
Correct.
But sometimes they overflow on your lanes.
Think of it this way, if you go hunting with a rifle and you see a deer walk out on the field, no one around. You can always take that shot, pull it off into the woods,
Okay.
and that's what I'm trying to prevent.
And nobody has come to you for permission to hunt on.
I do have people that come, and I sign out the form, I have not denied anybody. I just let them know, this is your boundary, this is what you look out for. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. All right, so we're gonna move down to highway. While we wait on our 6:45. Come on down.
Dave, could you pull that mic out there and stick it in your mouth?
There you go, front and center. How are you this week?
All right,
Yeah,
it was just 3.
oh yeah, it was a little messy this morning, huh?
No, it wasn't.
Wasn't even slippery.
I was trying to, I don't know.
I was out, I was here last night at 7:30 and it was 51 degrees out.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then came in this morning, it was probably 45 out.
You weren't the one that pulled out the guy that tried to climb Linda Smith's hill?
No,
Okay,
Trying to find this one, so.
yeah, some guy in a blue Subaru Outback lost control of his car supposedly.
but.
And somebody with a
Police were called.
pickup truck was nice enough to pull him out the
No.
hill after he took
Why
out
didn't you
the
call the
trees. I mean, pulling somebody out of the woods.
Don't pull them out, call the police, and report the accident.
Yeah.
I was Speeding on the road in front of my.
Somebody- the weather report was like totally off,
Okay,
you know. Started off, you know,
That
rain,
surprises you.
well, when it says, up to 1 to 5 inches of rain, which is, oh my God.
Mhm.
And then, the guys were spending the last 3 or 4 days of just cleaning out all the ditches and catch basins. And then they had another 3 to 8 inches of snow on top of that after the rains. And all we get was a 45-minute snow squall and it was all over with.
Yeah.
So it was good.
Yeah.
This is James Start's resignation. He is leaving.
it's not official till it goes to the town clerk.
And I did a copy of that.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a conversation with James, I understand that, Huntington, so we go to Huntington is paying us.
Yes.
Yep,
Well, we have a contract.
we do have a contract negotiation coming up.
Yes.
Sorry to see James go, he's been wonderful. So yeah, that's definitely something we have
Yeah.
to visit. When is the contract negotiation? up?
Start this year,
This year, or when?
soon.
Soon.
Ira and I were just speaking about it probably about an hour or so ago about it.
Do we know who's doing the negotiation on our end?
Christopher was telling me that Dave is supposed to be doing Hudson.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So there's a lot of new things going into the idea for the new contract.
Okay, good.
So
I think we need to be thinking about how to
exactly.
pull in and maintain.
How does the workers feel about the contract? Did they ever say? Just curious.
Hello, Ray, what do you think? There's my one of my workers right there.
Okay,
Of the contract as of right now.
yeah,
To hold licenses and hold my CDL. All the different boisters licenses that required to operate for us in the community of Blandford.
Mhm.
The pay could be a little better,
Mhm.
mhm,
I'm not gonna lie about that. When you come to a town with 8 years' experience of running vac trucks, sweepers, equipment. It could be better.
Mhm.
I'm not complaining. You guys welcomed me into the community. But as times change, you know, living expenses go up,
Yeah,
kids get older. You know, it would be nice to have maybe more benefit here and there
Mhm.
that we could work out together.
yeah,
That's beneficial for yourselves and for the workers, I would say. To draw more people into this municipality work, I think we need to open up more. Not basically asking to have every single requirement to join the job.
okay,
If you find someone that has a not even a CDL, a clean record, a
Mhm.
good nose, good education, and a hard work that, you know, willing to work, I would say give them a chance to get their CDL, to get their hoister's license. You know, don't start them off at 15 an hour because no one's gonna wanna work for that. You can go to the truck stop and make 23, 24.
Mhm.
You know, doing an overnight up there. You know, playing on your phone. I can't do that. I gotta stay busy.
Yeah.
It just makes day go by quicker and. I like interacting with everybody and getting to meet everybody in the community.
We have talked about. You know, how to encourage people to get those licenses while working for us. The concern is encouraging someone and helping them and then. losing them. Yeah,
having them go somewhere else.
Yeah,
No,
so it's a bit of
Yeah.
a, right, balance.
yeah,
especially if you're gonna spend that kind of money for a license, for a CDL license, I understand that. But for just a hoisting license, or the rail mower, any of those licenses,
What are they about 150?
Oh, that's, yes.
yeah,
We can
yeah,
help with-
yeah,
What's the CDL now today?
6.
8,000, 6,000?
yeah,
So we put a thing on it, says he has to work 5 years or pay it back.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And make it in a contract. That way
Well,
I can have.
So our attorney, no,
Yeah.
this is a hard to be on.
Yeah, this open,
Yeah.
this something like what we just asked, opens up the discussion
Mhm.
among us
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
put in the back of your mind.
so I don't think we can discuss too much in
No.
open
No.
meeting because we're getting into that fine line.
Oh.
But thank you for your input, that
Yeah.
it's very much appreciated. And we definitely wanna, keep employees and, you know, want people to wanna stay with us. So we wanna work out how we can do that. So, well, I'm sorry to see James go,
Yes,
but we're okay for the winter?
we'll be all right. We'll make it. I got, Steve will come in, the water department, give us a hand on it, so we'll be good. The town of Beckett lost another employee also.
Hmm.
To that
The DOT.
DOT,
Ugh.
and their starting pay is 28 an hour. So,
Are the benefits similar to ours?
yes, yeah. The guys approached me the other day about pulling out of the salt barn area in the winter time, or in
About
salt barn.
Okay,
They have problems looking down the road either way
oh,
with the plow in the truck, and you gotta go so far out.
okay,
They were wondering if there's any way we could widen the line of sight, so they'll be able to look down the road instead of, oh,
Okay, it's trees out.
yes.
yeah,
Can you limit them off and be able to see by enough or
Well, no, we're gonna have to probably take some back.
hand them some?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's a whole bunch of dead acting. Yes, it is.
Because I know things happening now.
Yes,
so there is some ash, so we could maybe use some of the.
Yeah.
The tree budget for that,
we can,
have you heard?
no,
Okay,
but I did hear from Eversource,
okay,
and I am supposed to be meeting with this gentleman later on, probably, that looks of it, probably next month.
okay,
They did a survey of all the ash trees in the town that are on the power line side. And they are going to be starting sometime next year with tree removal for those ash trees. that are by the power
Okay.
lines. So the lady came around earlier this year and she went out and marked all the trees that are underneath the power lines or in the area. And it's gonna be for free.
Fantastic.
like.
I like free.
Can you bring down Chester Road and across from Lloyd Martin's house?
Yeah.
Those limbs that are hanging over the road?
It has to be by the power lines.
One of those limbs come down, it's taken off the power line. They won't touch it.
Nope, they will not touch it.
Ask them nicely.
I have many a times.
Ask them nicely.
So yeah,
Okay,
that's that.
I would say, I think we all agree, yes, take whatever you need to clear. so
Okay.
that there's-
Clear it up, make
Yeah.
it safe.
And then,
Should have done a while ago, obviously.
I just reached out and I will say something about using some budget for that because it's ash trees.
Mhm.
And,
Okay.
you should hear, if you hear, please let me know.
Sure will.
Maybe just let me know next week either way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we'll just keep pushing.
Yes, so we can do. We talked about that. We talked about water department.
Oh, yeah.
Um. From what I heard is that they've found a contractor to try to fix the problem up there on Russell Stage.
They have to dig up the road.
Yes. They hired a very competent contractor,
So they've already hired someone.
I believe so, tomorrow.
Wow,
Wow, that's what I've heard.
cool. Before I started that,
Well, before the plant shut down.
great.
And this company also does paving. He's one of the bigger contractors in the Pittsfield area.
Put it up to bid.
No,
Yeah, emergency.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
I can't say yet.
All right,
That's Gordon, that's Gordon's area. All right. As you can tell, if you went down Russell Stage, the guys put up a barrel down there and some little lights on it. I can't guarantee how long it's gonna stay there, but it's Russell Stage Road, the barriers. Yeah. You know. Yes, no problem.
all right,
And no issues this morning. So we're doing good.
good.
Yes,
Well-
PJ.
You knew I was gonna say something. Yeah, I reached out to the people who are causing the problem out on
Okay,
Mule Land Road.
Yep.
And I suggested that, both parties need to have a conversation on
Mhm.
solving the problem.
okay,
And I explained to them that our biggest concern is the road,
correct.
all right? What happens on that side or this side is the property owners,
Mhm.
all right? And we have to preserve the road, so I'm reaching out and saying that, you know, they have to sit down with either the select board
Right,
or
yeah, that's how it
someone
should
on the
be.
select board and you to determine the easiest way to solve that problem.
Mhm. No problem,
And that's the problem with the beavers.
Julian.
Yeah, they're really playing havoc with the road now.
Yeah. So. And that's all that I have.
Okay.
You have anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
Sounds
All
good.
right.
Go
Now-
on.
Just one follow-up.
Oh, yes.
I just put two and two together. I was asked by the water department to put out a reverse 911 call,
Oh,
which
yeah.
you helped me
Yeah,
do, and it is about road.
perfect. So that's going out
repair on
tonight.
Russell Stage Road tomorrow
Yeah.
between
9.
8:30 and 3.
8:33, conserve your water. If you live on Russell Stage Road, fill the bathtub. Take shower tonight. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, you have a wonderful night.
You
I'm
too.
going down to conservation.
No. go home. All right, town administrator update.
Okay, so as you know, the screening committee has completed their work, hopefully.
Yep.
Then we were gonna have 3 interviews tonight, but now that's down to 2.
Okay.
And I'll let you know that I not that I really had the time to, but I had not done much of anything in the way of background checks of any of the candidates yet.
That's okay, yeah,
But, you know, based on, how
Yeah.
things go, we're ready to do that.
okay,
The standby generator, it does require 3 quotes. That's
Okay.
separate for 3 quotes.
Okay. yeah,
And, just procurement law.
okay.
I spoke with Ellen Batchelder from FERCog.
Mhm.
And, so I have not spoken since last Monday, or last Tuesday, I guess, with John
Okay,
in Huntington.
oh,
Yeah.
yes, mhm.
So I don't know, he was, I believe, looking at other vendors.
Okay,
Is he a bidder?
no,
No,
he's our
He's just
electrical,
a consultant,
he's our electrical
He's
inspector.
the
Yeah.
electrical inspector and is helping with this.
okay,
He came in to see you last week.
Yes,
I know Elm
Did you-
Electric had done work for us too, so.
you sent us the email that you forwarded me the email to Janice and Sean about the 30K for ARPA. Do I
Yes,
see that?
so the source of funds is all set there
Okay,
for purchase of the switch.
so they got back to you and and we have that money for the 30K is in ARPA for the switch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so we can cover that. So do we wanna move forward with that? Because, John said last week that that's something that takes like, what, 24 weeks to order, 42 weeks, sorry.
40+ weeks.
So 40+ weeks to order, so if we wanna move forward with purchasing that, I guess my question would just be, is John going to order what we need and do all the paperwork?
So the first thing that has to happen is the procurement.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, we have to, so we have to wait on it.
right,
Not sealed
Okay.
bids, it's just best effort to put a note in the file under 30B that this is proprietary equipment
Okay,
and that the source, the number of vendors available is likely limited.
Okay.
So I think didn't you vote last week to go ahead with this?
yes, we
okay,
did.
yeah, we did, okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
So as long as that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Go ahead and get that one over, so I haven't
Do your thing.
heard from him since 5 or 6 days.
Okay. Okay,
Got that yesterday.
thank you.
We have the signed copies of the Springfield water and sewer,
Yep. And they've been sent,
those were signed last week, so we're just
Got it.
waiting to get the countersigned ones back to them.
okay. All right, and then under action item, I have the MIA, the valuation update invoice for the town hall post office. So total additional premium is $825.
You might want to hold off signing that until next week. I
Okay.
did speak with Christopher, this afternoon.
Mhm.
He actually saw the agenda and saw that item and said he could provide some context, so
Okay. He
I
said
spoke-
wait on it, okay,
Well, what he said was that, there were some other potential credits.
oh,
that
to go
they-
towards it,
that
okay,
They be owed, so before
okay,
you go ahead and pay that bill. I was also kind of just looking at, the total valuation,
yeah, it seems a little high.
it's like 850,000.
Yeah, that building is valued at $860,000.
I think it's 3 properties.
It's just 102 Main Street. It's just the town, I know, okay, hold on.
I thought it was 3.
It was
says
at one point.
Former
Yeah.
town hall now split between office space, storage and training room, fire department, post office.
Yeah.
50% post office, 50% office, low rise.
Yeah, so it's this building, the post office building and the fire station. I think it's all
No,
three.
it's the fire, so the other part of the town hall, the post office is a fire
Oh,
station training.
I got you.
Yeah.
So it really, it says
Fine.
5,312 square feet. It's just those two buildings, they're attached, it's one building, two sides.
And
So the
what-
valuation went from 500 something
That's
thousand. to
very
800
high.
Something,
It went from 593, basically 600,000.
Yeah.
Or 594,000, basically, to 860,000.
Because originally,
Wow.
the original person
Right.
owned that building, they owned behind it and they owned where the park is. It was one person, so there was 3 separate places
But the
there.
park's not attached anymore,
Right.
nor is the parking lot. It's just,
Yeah, that's why.
right?
Yeah.
Go to reach out to my own.
Yeah, somebody brought it.
I mean, I think 594,000 is a lot.
We'll take 700 tomorrow and got it.
That seems excessive, it's kind of a. I don't wanna say dumb, but,
Maybe some more.
okay, so we'll table that, motion to table, action item A until next week. Any discussion, all in favor?
I,
Motion to approve the warrant number 11 payroll for payment, so this is just the payroll. Was there a second for discussion?
second,
Let me give you that, but if you wanna look at it. Wait, this is the life insurance warrant that I just signed, sorry, that's the life.
that's your signature only, he didn't read the fine print.
Here, special warrant signature only. All right, where's the other one? Signed that. Oh, here it is. It's warrant payable. So this looks like about what it usually is. All in favor? Aye. All right, so next up, we've got the animal control inspection vehicle. Did anyone hear back from Chester? Because they were meeting out last week? What did we hear?
So Chester, according to Don Humison, the town administrator, Chester, they thought that vehicle was already owned by Chester, which it's not.
Okay,
It's just a surprise.
So, but they are very happy to take that and have it be part of the fleet of
okay,
shared
so-
vehicles, if that's okay with you guys.
yeah, so that means that, because right now, I think doesn't it need an updated registration and,
It's not insured.
It's not
Yeah.
sure.
It's not insured, and Joanne just showed me today, there's an invoice from
for the glass,
the glass,
yeah,
so I'm not sure,
that would end up coming out of police vehicle maintenance budget, I think.
yeah, so that's not. That needs to be,
Well, why
that
would-
would need to be paid by.
How old is the
someone-
vehicle?
House, Jesus, yeah.
Well, because if it becomes a police vehicle, then any maintenance or,
Well, wasn't it a police vehicle at one time?
no, it was an ACO vehicle. And since we've now combined the two positions, ACO and police,
It was an old cruiser.
Yeah,
Oh,
it started
and
off
one,
as
yes,
an old
yes.
vehicle, yeah.
and then it turned to.
And how old is it? I mean, if we're
13.
gonna be sharing it, there's gonna be maintenance costs. And how old is it and how many miles are on it?
Well,
Well, you're
wouldn't you
supposed
rather
to-
share it than have all the costs?
If we're not using it, get rid of it.
Yes, Mary.
In the absence of an animal control officer, the job reverts to the police. And I'm not sure why I understand we would want to share our animal control vehicle with Chester, since they don't have, or they've got their own animal control officer, they probably have their own animal control vehicle.
My understanding is we don't need it as an animal control vehicle,
And why do we need it?
that we don't need a animal control vehicle.
We don't.
Well, our animal control officer is the police
Is the
officer. now.
police officer,
Yeah.
so she's
Doesn't
gonna
need-
use the
yeah.
police vehicle. So why do we need this vehicle in the second place?
So I guess the next step would be to. Have, we need someone to take a look at it, I guess, and give us the
value
details,
of it.
yeah, value and if it's worth. Keeping. So do we need to bring it in? Do we have someone do that? Do we have a place that we can bring it to?
Oh, yeah, I mean, you can bring it down to, Center City, that's where the water department,
That's where the water department goes.
yeah, it goes with their vehicle, before they bought the new one.
Is that, who are we asking to do that? Are we asking Jen to do that? Chief Dubio?
It's not insured or it's not, right? So we get, no, Chester wants to insure it, is that what you said?
Well, Chester just said, sure, we'll add it to the fleet. I don't think they said, yes, let us pay money to insure it. They said, sure, we'll add it to the fleet.
Same
Yeah.
thing, difference, we split it, but
Um,
it's gonna be registered as theirs, so where does the maintenance go from there?
yes,
I think what might be happening, sorry to cut you down. I think what might be happening is, Terry Donovan is the state animal inspector,
yeah,
and she uses it, and she still wants it, she knows about it. So that might be why they're keeping it in the state.
What do we want to take this?
so she's an inspector for that year.
Every time we done
Well, that's
it.
stupid.
So she's the animal inspector for Chester as well.
Yeah, but she's no longer ours.
But she is the inspector for us. She is no longer the animal control officer.
There's two positions, there's,
Yeah.
each town has animal inspector and animal control officer, so she's still the animal inspector here as well.
Okay.
This is in Chester, she's no longer the
ACO.
ACO,
Is she the
Here.
ACO in Chester?
she is.
TJ, the animal inspector is a state position. Animal control is a town. position.
Yeah,
And it's different. Animal control takes care of dogs and cats and things like that.
Horses,
The inspector looks at horses, the condition of cows, things like that.
so
Make sure that-
does she take care of all Hampden County?
I don't know how much she does, but she has more than one town.
Yeah, so,
It's fine.
Oh,
all right, so our person, I think our person is here.
Yeah.
Let's reach out to, let's reach out to Don Humison and let him know that, we appreciate that, but we just wanna, we're looking into whether or not it's worth keeping and, if it's worth anything. So, we can talk to, I guess, Chief Dubio about maybe bringing it down to city center and having some people get it. Just giving us some advice.
I also have a concern about whether the town can just simply give it away.
Yeah,
Or, you know, there
Yeah.
needs to be a value for it and.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
needs to be put on.
sure.
I'll tell them that tomorrow.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, did anyone have anything else? Cause we're about to start interviews.
Where do you want the?
So,
candidates?
we'll put our candidate right here in front of the,
Which-
in the hot spot.
Right in this chair?
yeah.
Yes, okay, so I'm not signing this, but everything else is signed. Let me get this plan.
I think so. Are we good to?
Yes, we're good, thank you. I think that's not gonna tell us what you're. Yeah. This, I'm gonna use the. Hello, how are you? You wanna have a seat right here in front of the microphone? Welcome. Mark, I'm Carol Tender, I'm the select board chair, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
This guy
I'm
over here.
PJ, one of the board members, Jeff Allen.
Hi. I just said hi.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming all the way.
I didn't know if I missed something.
No, no.
All right, so, the way that we typically do this, we have, well, 10 questions. The last one is just what questions you have for us. So we're gonna kind of go around, I'll ask a question, TJ, and then Jack. If you need us to, repeat a question or part of a question, feel free to ask out. That's about it. Okay, so our first question is, I'm gonna start. 'Cause I said so.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tell us about yourself, why you're interested in the job, and what are your future goals? How this position fits into that for you.
So, I grew up in a small town in Vermont. Went to military school for high school, went back to the University of Vermont and went to Alaska after I graduated as a Vista volunteer, working with a Eskimo Indian nonprofit group on solving fishing issues in the Bristol Bay. I was there for 3 years. The last year I worked for the governor in the Office of Management Budget and came back east. I guess I'm just a New Englander at heart. To go to graduate school. And when I was in graduate school, I was asked to go to Washington to work for Senator Leahy on a matter involving national wildlife refuges in the oil and gas industry. I will it fondly, I guess, admit that going to law school probably wasn't the best decision I ever made, but I ended up going to law school. I've always had an interest in environmental and natural things. When I was growing up, can recall at a very young age, two conversations at the dinner table. One is you're going to college because that's how you get ahead. Because both my parents went to college on a GI Bill. And the other thing is that you always give back to your community. And I guess that's the part that I took more seriously. Because I have a pretty strong commitment to, I'll call it the public good in whatever capacity I can provide that. And I moved to, so I was in Providence for a number of years with a large law firm, and I quit because I couldn't stand it, and worked for the state of Rhode Island for 9 years as a chief litigator for environmental crimes. And then I got married and moved to Agawam. And then we were going to move to Pittsfield to get our kids into the same school under school choice, but I ended up getting a divorce. Not the worst decision I ever made. and I've pretty much been on my own practicing law. I represented Pyramid, the Berkshire Mall, for over 10 years. So that's sort of was my route in Berkshire County. I would start out in a small firm, did a 3-year project for a junkyard in New Hampshire, came back, ran a company in Lenox, and then was asked by Pyramid to work for them because I'd worked for them before I went off and did a bunch of other things. And when Pyramid left the mall, I was asked to work with the Baker Hill Road District, which is the entity that owns the road in front of the mall. And that had been created because the town basically lent Pyramid $10 million to finish building the mall. And they paid that loan back. It was never a burden on the town. And since then, I've been asked to participate with other the Lanesboro Water District, and I do a lot of work with people in town, especially on things related to, I'll call it, community development. Whether it's I've been asked to see if I could get a sewer line down through the main road, and do some other things similar to that. We just installed the new water main into one part of town that had been boiling water for I don't know how many years under their own, sort of like Housatonic. It was a separate water district that hadn't been maintained for 40 years, and the state, they had contamination issues. So, and so I've always been involved in something to do with the public just because I have that interest. I've never ever had any goals for myself. I learned a long time ago, there's somebody asked me if I wanted to do something, my response is, why not? And that's, if you look at what I did, it's a little bit of everything everywhere, but I don't really have a set of goals. If I had a goal, it would be to end up doing something that I really enjoy for the next 5 years and disappear back into the woods. I'm older, so I don't have the same. I've never really had that strong an interest in new cars, new houses, and a lot of money. So.
Describe your management style, what you bring to the table to achieve success, building consensus, reaching goals, collaboration. Oh, I already said that. Collaboration, collaborating effectively and accomplishing tasks.
So my management style is to draw upon the resources that currently exist. I don't believe that you come in and change something unless there's a problem. I have a lot of training in mediation, which helps me deal with people. Most disputes, if there is a dispute, has nothing to do with people who generally talk about there's something else going on. And as I said in the pre-interview, every small town has its history of grudges and problems. Um, I don't profess to know all of them or how to fix them, other than to listen and to try to figure out what's really going on. I do have two principles I work by. One is if you make a mistake, I need to know about it immediately. I don't see that as a discipline issue. I see that as getting the outcome that you want, because if you make a mistake and you let it slide down the road, there's probably 5 or 6 other things that are going to attach itself to that problem. So it's better to just admit that you made a mistake, tell somebody who can help you address the mistake, and learn from it. And the other thing that other principle I have is I expect people to be forthright. That if they have an issue that they bring it to the table rather than bring it under the table. I don't, because that like a mistake that creates problems that resurface with 10 warts when there was only one to begin with. And I just think that's important. So it's my experience has been going into a new situation is to try to figure out where everybody fits in the system, what it is they bring to what the ultimate organizational desires are, and encourage them to keep doing a good job, and maybe identifying some things that would help them. With, there are a lot of free resources out there that people can use that they don't know about. I happen to know about a lot of them because I've been on my own for a long time, and I think that's incredibly valuable. And I'll say this is that I find that most ranking, I'll call them middle management government employees, are very helpful if you ask for help. And a lot of people are afraid to ask because they feel as though they're deficient, or they made a mistake, or somebody's going to tell them they haven't done something the right way. Well, if that's the case, there's no better time than have the person who's probably going to overlook what you're doing help you get through whatever the situation is.
Thank you. Regular experience with the municipal budget process. How do you approach planning for capital expenses versus operational expenses?
So I don't have, in the traditional municipal sense, I don't have experience with budgeting. I've had experience budgeting on the state level. I represent 2 districts. We go through the same budgeting process with annual meetings that the town of Lanesboro does. I've believe it or not, there's really no capital budgeting that goes on. I'm involved with some projects, and I'm have tried to convince the commissioners on the water district, let's say, that you don't have to spend $250,000 every year on a capital project. You need to learn how to turn that $250,000 into 10 projects with some financial planning. And so we just recently had a meeting with Unibank, who's is our financial advisor and we have a new treasurer, to come in and talk to them about financial planning in the context of how you're we just had an asset management plan done. And there's like $23 million in projects that are supposed to be done over the next 10 years. And everybody is mortified that they're going to have to raise rates, 300%. And I'm trying to convince them you don't have to do that. That every year you set aside $200,000 to put pipes in the ground, figure out 5 or 6 of them that you want to do. Let's look at how we can finance it so that $200,000 a year goes to 5 projects rather than 1. And next year you're going to have to raise rates. And we don't have as big an operational budget as the municipality does because, for example, the water district, we have 2 employees. I mean, everybody else is an employee because of the IRS rulings on the stipends they get. But we only have really 2 employees that actually run the water district. And then we have some seasonal employees. On the road district, we don't have any employees. It's just basically the commissioners and me in that situation, trying to help them figure out how they can help somebody or themselves redevelop the Berkshire Mall. I mean, that's really the big thing that's going on there is I don't know if you read in the paper, we've had, first we had cannabis, they're going to be the cannabis capital of the Northeast. 4 months ago. Then they're gonna be a $250 million lockdown facility for Alzheimer's 4 weeks ago. And last week, now they're $150 million senior housing with limited retail. Which is more realistic, but they're claiming that no investor will put money into the project unless they get rid of the Baker Hill Road District. Well, my experience, having worked with developers, is you take it as it is. You don't come in and try to change the landscape. It's either gonna work with what you have or it's not. And unfortunately, I take the brunt of it because none of the commissioners want to speak up. But I don't have a lot of experience with the operational, the capital part of it, I'm far more familiar with, and how you might be able to finance that and lessen the burden on the community. You know, sort of like school, I don't really believe in the debt exclusion provision. I think you really need to try to figure out how to do it without the debt exclusion, because that just hides it off the annual town meeting. It just shows up as an operational expense, and nobody wants to talk about that $60 million school that we just built and what it does. So Baker Hill Road District.
Goes from Route 8 to 7, is that the one that comes back
Yep.
out?
Yeah, we just resurfaced it.
My project.
Oh, do you? So over the hill or just down the rail trail?
Okay, so grant funding, it's crucial to much of the work of municipal government. Walk us through how you would successfully apply for and then manage grants.
Well, depending upon what the project is, there are 4 or 5 programs specifically for small rural communities that that the financing may be dependent upon the income and the relative expense of the service provided compared to other communities. So for example, the USDA, I don't know whether the town has a town engineer, but typically what would happen is the engineer, let's say you want to replace a water main, the engineer would come up with a proposal, tell you how much you thought it was going to cost. That would then get submitted, let's say, to the USDA, and you might go to the USDA because you can get up to 40-year financing. The SRF, the revolving fund for water and sewer, is only 20 years. There's some forgiveness provision in that, but the USDA also has a provision for forgiveness. So, for example, when we did Berkshire Village, it was $3.5 million, but they gave us a grant portion of a little over $1 million on that project, and that was funded through betterment. So the annual cost to customers was reduced from $5,000 to $1,100 because the legislature let us do it over 40 years. The SRF is a good project if you meet the same criteria for what do they call it, hardship communities and income. They have a forgiveness program where they forgive interest on the loans, and every year they send out a new amortization schedule because the interest rate floats, and they tell you how much of the loan, how much of the interest they're going to forgive. So in a lot of those projects, because it's 20 years, oftentimes the principal and interest are pretty close in amount. So if you can get the interest waived, then you've cut the cost of it in half. There are other kinds of projects that might be funded through the Executive Office of Housing and Community Development. I think it's called housing now because of the governor's bond bill, but there's money set aside specifically for small and rural communities, for water, for sewer, underutilized buildings, any number of things. I wore my sweater again because they told me it's always cold in here. I don't know if the town has ever applied for energy efficiency grants to have this building inspected, and they will actually give you all the money to replace all the windows, re-insulate it, do the whole 9 yards if you can demonstrate how it's used in the community. There are special housing funds for different kinds of housing. Unfortunately, nothing really for senior housing, but for affordable housing, for workplace housing, for and I don't know whether Hampden County has the same housing relationship in Berkshire County, but Pittsfield Housing and Berkshire Housing are sort of the lead agencies. And under one of them, a private developer can make an application and get funding to provide, I'll call it assisted housing, where, you know, it's a mixed use of market rate plus 30% of your income if you qualify. So there's a program for that. There's all sorts of stuff out there. I don't know, you know, I don't know whether Blandford does an annual summer event or not, but there's cultural council grant, festival grants. There's, if you wanted to build some kind of historic marker, there's a cultural facilities grants up to $500,000. There's grants through the Mass Office of Tourism and Transportation and Tourism. It's a matching grant. The more you match, the more likely you are to get the money, but I think the maximum you can get is $250,000. So depending upon what it is that you want, there's probably a grant out there someplace on the state level, and oftentimes there's a federal one. And my best grant solution is to call up Paul Marker in Berkshire County, Mayor Barrett, and say, hey, you know, you owe us. Not quite like that, but but you know, we have a plan and we'd like some help.
He kind of covered my question.
Okay.
The,
Do you, do you want to move on to 6 or?
yeah, because
Okay,
he answered both questions.
okay.
What were the questions?
Well, the town administrator plays a critical role in procurement and contracting for goods and services. And, how would you ensure the town complies with 30B and other procurement laws while getting the best deal?
Does Hampden County have county bid contracts? Like in Berkshire County, they, you know, the county will go out and get bids for like road salt, some paving services, some construction services. I don't know whether Hampden County had the same thing or not.
They do.
Yeah.
Usually they had a DPW.
Do
no?
they give cemetery stuff?
For fuel, we do that for fuel every year and.
Oh, all right. So you covered 2 questions.
Well, you know, you sent out the essay question, and it just so happened that I wrote my response, and then I was looking up something for somebody else, and in that situation that was presented, if the DPW director had declared it an emergency to have to use the town equipment to do that, you'd have to put it in writing and provide it to the select board. And then he might have not had that conflict of interest. But I would never encourage anybody to do that. That's just not. That's a slippery slope, as they say.
Massachusetts municipal government has to conduct business in accordance with open meeting law and public records law. How would you make your town government to run efficiently and effectively while still maintaining transparency?
Well, if you haven't done it already, I would sign up the town for the ethics and open meeting law service that the AG's office now provides, so the town clerk doesn't have to do it. This is one of the areas that's a problem for a lot of communities, that people don't understand conflicts and they think they can slide by on open meeting law violations. My experience is most towns have somebody to make sure you don't slide too far until they complain about it. From my perspective, complying with those is transparency. I just, you know, if you don't do it, people don't know what's going on. And what's really important is minutes. That really is the thing that I don't know how many meetings you record, but if they're not recording their meetings and memorializing them in the minutes that way, then somebody has to do a good job of keeping the minutes in a timely fashion. And there's some boards where it's critical because there are time limits on decisions, like the Conservation Commission, the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Planning Board all have time limits on making decisions which have to be put in writing in terms of minutes and not just in permits, so that during that 20-day period of the appeal, somebody can review it and file an appeal or not. depending upon, and you know, there are some people who will actually come to meetings and be upfront about things, and there are other people that'll just, they'll go to the minutes and not be upfront about things. And that's a community thing, and I would hope that especially the chairman of committees would be sensitive to how people react in public. Because Massachusetts Supreme Court said that anybody can come in here and call you names, anything they want to. They said, the Constitution in Massachusetts guarantees that a public participant can be rude. Well, so it didn't say you couldn't limit their rudeness to 3 minutes. Or you could just take public comment off the agenda. But that happens in committees as well. And I'm actually on the chairman of the ZBA. I just had a situation where a gentleman was appointed and we received an application from somebody on a piece of property he was going to buy and rebuild the house. Well, some of the gentlemen on the board went to the property owner and asked him if he wanted to sell it. And the guy who actually had the deal to buy it sent me an email. And I wrote to the other board member, I said, I don't have the authority, but I'm going to just suggest that the buyer and the applicant notified me, and it is not a good idea for you to come to the meeting. And he wrote back and said, I went as a contractor. Really? And I didn't respond. I didn't respond, and he didn't show up, thank God. But I think that's an important part of everything. And you have to have an open door, and if somebody's really, let's say I'm the town administrator, somebody's really giving me a hard time, they're getting your phone numbers. When I answer to you, and if I can't fix it, or I can't find it, then I need assistance from the select board, not to pawn it off on the select board, but there's sometimes we had a situation with the water district, and we use the town collector to collect our water bills. Well, she now has a piece of paper. If somebody just is going off on her, she's just going to hand out the piece of paper and say, here's instructions on how you can, pursue whatever your issue with the water district, and it gets turned over to the commissioners, because nobody should be abused like that.
Thank you. In your career, please relate the most sensitive or critical issue / crisis that either affected or had the potential to significantly affect your relationship with your team, and what was the outcome? The second part of that was what techniques did you employ to resolve the issue of crisis?
I've had a couple. Probably the most significant in terms of what I do every day was when I left the law firm I worked for in Rhode Island. I went to work for the state of Rhode Island, the Department of Environmental Management, and they asked me to handle a case that involved a wetlands violation, and it was against one of my former clients. I had never worked, so I was building shopping centers for him. I had never worked on his shopping center, so I said to my boss, the director, I said, there's no issue for me because I never worked on this before. And in a way, like in Massachusetts, you can get a ruling from the Board of Bar Overseers, which I did, and they didn't find a conflict. But what it turned into was I had to learn when to press and not press the issue, because what eventually happened was the director came to me and said, Mark, you've done nothing wrong, but you can't do this case anymore. So the Senate president's wife was a lawyer, so she was specially appointed to represent the department in this one case. And I just walked away from it. I didn't really care one way or the other. She became a judge for her service. And I learned a valuable lesson, because it didn't stop there, because the law firm sued me. And the Supreme Court took it up. And I made a lifelong friend, because one of the judges who was hearing the case came back and threw the case out because they had deposed me. And I have nothing to hide. If I did something wrong, just tell me, but I didn't. I was at the Supreme Court one day and I had a friend up there and they have a process where they send you all these notices, but they never tell you the outcome. So I was in the attic talking to this person. I said, you know, this is a horrible system. I don't know it's been over a year. I don't know what's going on. So she went and got me the letter that got sent to the law firm, basically telling them that, you know, don't do it again, or, you know, the consequences might be more dire than just don't do it again. And in that situation, I was never able to talk to anybody about all the political machinations and all the conversations and all that kind of stuff, because there's enough anxiety in that part of the department already. You know, it's one of those departments, like in Massachusetts, they kept wanting to cut all the environmental enforcement for years and years and years. And it would have done nobody any good for me to make a big deal out of it. And I had a couple other situations, not that much of an attack against me personally, but where I had to deal with when I worked for Senator Leahy, there was a lot of confidential information that I had to deal with, and I couldn't talk to anybody about it. I just, other than his chief of staff, and that was a real eye opener for me, as well as how Washington works. I can't, Senator Kennedy was still alive, and they have a train system down underneath all the buildings. You know, you can get to all the different buildings. And I said, when you see Senator Kennedy, nobody gets on that train. And I'm like, really? You know, it's just a little like electric caboose kind of thing down there, you know. But no, I've learned, I just, you know, I get attacked a lot in the newspaper. I never respond. I don't go on Facebook. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. I just do my job. Well, it doesn't do you any good because it never ends.
Thank you.
All right. Given the position profile and job description, what qualifications set you apart as a candidate?
Well, all those projects you listed, I'll get done quickly. I have experience with all of them. I think my attitude towards public service probably sets me apart. I don't do this, I do this out of a love of wanting to make sure everybody can participate. To me, this is really not a job. This is really, you know, I do a lot of free legal work. I do a lot of work for seniors through the Council on Aging. I just have that interest. I don't, you know, I don't know about anybody else. I just know in terms of me that I think that in part sets me apart because of that.
How do you get have time for us?
Well, I'm not, okay, so I wouldn't do that. So if I were to take this position, the only thing I would continue to want to do is what I do for the water district and the road district. Everything else, you know, I have 5 trials coming up. I have to get rid of all of them. I have estate planning stuff that I have to finish. But other than that, I don't plan on, you can't practice law. You know, there's one thing about being a municipal employee, your loyalty is supposed to be to the municipality. I already represent 2. They're distinct, but they're in the same community. So it's pretty much the same for both of them. To add the town of Blandford, I don't see as being a conflict, because when I'm here, you know, the job would be for the town. I do have one rule that would have to change as a town administrator. I usually don't answer the phone after 5 o'clock. I am not that important, and nor are you. But I understand there's exactly, they gotta find my door first of all. But no, I get that. You know, that's why I said, you know, as an administrator, it's a different world. You know, people do expect responses, and you know, when I worked for a big firm, if I went home before 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, I'd be surprised. And this was before cell phones, you know, and email and all that kind of stuff. And well, that's why I don't, you know, they call it social media. And in one point in time, I wanted to write a letter to the editor and say, well, you know, Facebook is giving Twitter a call, you know, and they're going to meet at X and have, you know, and try to figure out how it's called social media. It isn't really social media. It's just another telephone or a fence, depending upon where you live.
Says the difference between a manager and a leader. Tell us about a time when you had to demonstrate leadership.
A leader has to be able to manage. A manager doesn't necessarily have the qualifications to be a leader. And the most recent example of that for me is we had a town administrator in Lanesboro who go back to the Berkshire Village Water Project, who said the town didn't, she got an email from the USDA and the USDA had a bunch of questions and she told the selectmen that the town didn't qualify for the loan from the USDA. So what you have to know is the town of Lanesboro budget is $10 million. The water district budget is $600,000. So I asked the selectmen for a copy of the letter and I read the letter and the water district had been in a position of volunteering to help the town do the project anyway, but because of those unspoken politics in small towns, they didn't want us to do anything, have anything to do with it. So when the town dropped the ball, we went ahead and completed the application to the USDA and got the funding. And in those small organizations like that, I tend to be the person who gets the money and manages the project. We are all older. I have more experience doing these kinds of things than they do. And they have no issue with leaving it to me. And I have no issue doing it because I'm not going to do anything to get them into trouble. We have a treasurer who insists that these small organizations get audited annually. We use Tom Scanlon, who audits us every year. And her response was, I want somebody to tell me that I'm doing it right, not that I'm doing it wrong. So, we pay a lot of money for the audits, but we've been audited by the state auditor. And they couldn't find anything. Somebody accused us of stealing $500,000. Couldn't find it. They ended up citing us for not having one annual report, not having a written contract with our lawyer, which is not required by law. And we had one commissioner who hadn't taken the ethics exam in 2 years. And that was all corrected before they came out with their final report. So, sometimes, as soon as they asked me the question, they would call me about the audit. And based on the question, I would call the commissioners and say, okay, we have to do this. Because I knew it was going to come out. And, it's just remarkable what some people will do not for the community. You may have, the person who filed a lot of these complaints was fined by the Ethics Commission for $30,000 and about 3,100. Yes, I like a smaller town than that. I grew up in a town. I grew up in a town of 600 and 1,300 cows. It's not that way. Yeah, and it's not that way anymore. Trust me.
So our last question is, do you have any questions for us?
Wait.
My only question is when you're hoping somebody will start, other than as soon as possible.
Well, I can say that Ira's been fantastic. So I'm not.
I'm glad to see he's back from Florida.
I'm personally not feeling as nervous as I was when Christopher left. So I think we have a little bit of a leeway, but it's gonna also depend on how long Ira's gonna be with us. So I would say we'd like to move forward and then, yeah, and then like, I was gonna say 1 or 2 months. Yeah.
6 to 8 weeks. Yes. That work for your time frame and all, because I know that's what's clicking in your head.
That's better than 3 weeks.
Yeah, sooner than later would be great. However, because we do have, we only have Ira for half-time. So there are some projects that are sitting and waiting.
So one of the other questions I have is how many full-time employees you have? I was led to believe that you have volunteers and.
We have, full-time highway superintendent, we have full-time administrator. We have highway workers are full-time, and we are down to 2. Ideally 4. across this building for 2 more times. And yeah, so maybe about 5, 6.
How many in the police force?
We're not full-time for police force,
Oh.
or share chief with, we have a shared, we share a police force. with our-
Oh, the whole force.
Yeah, with the town of Chester.
Did you get a grant for that?
We did, it was a project we started, in like 4 years now, maybe? 4 or 5 years, it's been successful. We got some nice grant funding to help with that, and pretty proud of it.
And I think the initial interview, somebody said you're looking at a new fire station or police station or,
Fire on the highway.
Yeah, we're looking to, our fire department is, crumbling, we can see through parts of it, and is in desperate need of being rebuilt. Our highway department is, not as bad, but, you know, is looking, we are definitely looking.
have you, so I'm the chairman of the Public Safety Building Committee in Lanesboro, and we're looking at a new police station, EMS station, and we had one proposal submitted, which people were not happy about at all. Unlike Lee, which just approved a $37 million complex. We were only looking at 5. But I was curious as to how that was going and
It's been, a little bit, we, still trying to figure out if we're gonna do the project together as one building. Possibly saving some funding with shared office space and whatnot, or divided into 2 spaces. That's been a bit controversial in town, as well as where the location should be. But we have been having regular meetings, we added some more residents to the committee. And we've been meeting with engineers, that's things like that, to talk about.
We have a Keon Cohen.
Yeah.
And that's City Point.
So
We're
we're making
using-
some headway, but
we're using Brian Hume.
still some hurdles.
They were one of the applicants.
Somebody pointed out to me there in Pelham, they actually built the library above the police station. And they were able to get funding towards the whole building by adding the library. I don't know much about where the
Yeah.
funding came from, but
Creative ideas up there,
I was just curious.
yeah.
I have that meeting tomorrow night. I can't wait for it. But I don't have any other questions at this point.
Thank you so much for.
You're quite welcome. Didn't snow, got my heater fixed.
Noise conditions, it'll be good.
Nope.
How long do you think it'll be here? Just curious.
If I go through Otis, about 40 minutes. No, because you can go 23 and then cut through Tyringham rather than having to. And once you get on Route 7, it's. You know, as long as the cops aren't out.
You're
Lennox.
living in Lanesboro?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes me about 40 minutes to get up to the rail trail, but it takes me an hour and a half to get back here, because I stop at Kelly's Diner.
You're wasting your time at the rail trail. You're stopping at Kelly's Diner, trust me.
Yeah, but I feel good.
Hey, that's all that matters.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Have a safe ride home.
Yeah. go for it. Okay, great.
Guys, you have to sign.
Oh, did I not sign something?
Well, what I was saying here was, no, I was just saying that it's not on the agenda. It's, this was a special one because we, the Hartford was sending their, somebody that.
Would it object to me turning that fan off? Because that background. You're so far away from the mic, it's not being recorded. Unless you're 16 inches or less from the mic.
But there's only one mic and 3 of us.
Well, that's my traditional position.
Yeah.
The mic is a short end mic, so you're getting, you have to be 16 inches or less from it and be recorded. So we don't hear TJ, we don't hear Jeff. Occasionally we
You don't have much to say.
The mouth.
Posterity purposes.
Just cold air coming through there.
That's not pushing it.
Well, it's not a heater, it's just.
It doesn't, you try to move the heat, you try to get heat to the road. He's cold there.
Yeah, take a little break.
Yeah, a little bit.
Survived up there for 2 years.
You want my phone for a minute?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff will be back in a second.
This guy is.
Pretty good, how you doing? Ira, I'm Ray Halsey, nice to meet you. I'm Maddie here, I gotta get some sleep. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you for coming in.
No problem.
Thank you
Wanna
for
see what's going on?
You know where we are. Come by and
Do
visit.
you want to be?
Here.
Yeah, I asked these guys, wanna see a show?
Oh, all right.
They're like, yeah, so let's go.
That's good. This is your daughter?
Yes, it's
Nice to
Andre.
meet you, Michael.
Mike.
You.
You prefer
Yeah.
Michael over Mike?
Mike's fine.
And Karen.
Bye-bye.
Good to meet you.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm always going this way. You too.
And TJ Buzzino,
Good to meet you.
Ted on there for formality.
Oh, yeah, you gotta fix that.
Oh.
Your name not Ted?
It's his Theodore.
You want?
He did.
It says Theodore?
No, it's.
You just went down on my list.
You've just been overruled.
That's better. Sorry, is better.
Should we make a motion?
So welcome. The way that we're gonna conduct this interview is we have a set of 10 questions. Last one is actually just what questions do you have for us? But we'll just go in order asking the questions, and sort of we'll take some notes as we speak, same questions as we're doing for each candidate.
All right, thank you.
Okay, here. So I'm gonna ask the first question. It is, tell us about yourself and why you're interested in the job. And what are your future goals and how does this position fit with those plans?
All right, let me start at the beginning. My name is Mike Slavic. I'm a resident of Ludlow. I'm in Hampden County. I'm an attorney and I have an MBA in finance from the University of Massachusetts. My law degree is from Boston University. I practiced law for a number of years before I got into local government. I was very involved in Ludlow town government. Still am. I'm the town moderator there. And I was on many boards, committees, and when they transitioned to a town manager form of government, they invited me to apply, and I did, and I became the town administrator. Really the first town administrator there. The former executive secretary was given the title, but she was retiring and really didn't act as a town administrator. I was with Ludlow for a number of years, about 5 years. And another opportunity came up that didn't end up working out. I was in South Hadley very briefly. And then I went to Uxbridge, where I was a town manager for several years, and Athol, where I was a town manager for several years. And then I went to Sterling. Athol, I ended up leaving because they had a residency requirement there. And although I rented a house and spent the week there, my family was still living in Ludlow, and they didn't feel that fulfilled the spirit of the residency requirement. So I left and went to Sterling, and I was there for a number of years. I left the profession for a little while because of some personal issues. As you know, this is a 24/7 job. You're here all the time, and some of the issues at my home really didn't allow for that. Specifically, my grandmother was in the process of passing away and took a lot of my time, and she was on the Cape, so I was out there all the time, and it just didn't really work. I worked for the city of Enfield. It's really a city, even though they call themselves a town. And I was the assistant director of public works there for about 7 years. My position was eliminated in budget cuts, and so I decided to get back into this business. What are my long-range plans? I'd like to work about 6 more years and then retire. So I really don't want to make a move after I find a place.
You know, when you're retired, you lose your roots or You do.
My wife wants to go to Florida.
I won't miss the weekends. She likes the warm weather. She hates the winters. None of that bothers me. They're delicious.
Okay, describe your management style.
I consider myself a very collaborative manager. I like to interact a lot with the department heads, have regular meetings, all hands meetings about once a month, and regular one-on-ones, particularly with the major department heads. I want to know what's going on in every department, not because I want to micromanage, but because I want to be aware of the issues and know whether I can really help them. I found that there aren't many problems at this point in my career that I haven't seen yet. So I usually the big departments, police, fire, public works, I like to have a weekly one-on-one, half an hour to an hour. And I like to get to know everybody on staff. That's hard in a large town, but it's certainly doable here. I'm pretty low key. I like to be a quiet manager. I don't go around blustering or anything like that. When there are issues, I will step up and take the reins and provide whatever leadership is necessary in an emergency. But that's not my day to day. I like to be a collaborative manager on a daily basis.
I didn't finish my question. That's.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry. I thought
That's
I
fine.
think you answered it all anyways.
You
That was
did.
perfect. Thank you.
You covered it very well.
what was the rest of it?
And what do you bring to the table to achieve success in building consensus with reaching goals and collaborating effectively and accomplishing tasks? And you just covered it all.
Thank you.
You're a mind reader, damn it.
I don't know how we can do that with you.
I know, there's not much up there to play with, I'll tell you.
No barrier.
Don't be so agreeable.
Go ahead.
Okay. Describe your experience with the municipal budget process. How do you approach claims for capital expenses versus operations?
All right. First, I'll talk about, I have done many municipal budgets over the years. And of the operating budget, I tend to have a pretty well-defined plan. I would be meeting with you probably somewhere in October. I'd be starting to project revenues, any changes of revenues. I'd be talking to the assessors, seeing how much new growth there would be. Right now, we're starting to get some ideas with the state where the local aid is going to be. So at this point, I would be discussing, in October, I'd be discussing the revenues and priorities for the budget. Sometime in November, I would be presenting you with a budget memo for your review and approval. And once that was worked out and any changes were made, it would go out to the various departments with the budget objectives, goals, what can you do for any increases or lack of increases, which would, set the tone for the budget for the various managers. And then I would want a draft budget by the end of December or so. And that would start being reviewed to make sure it was within the revenue goals. I would review it with the various department heads. I like to do a budget that's not, I think it's lazy when you say, okay, we're just going to add 2% here and there. No, I want to start every line item at zero. I want to look at what you've spent the last 2 or 3 years and look at every single line item to see if it's been spent out, if it's been overspent, because I want a realistic budget. If you haven't spent the money in the last couple of years, why is it there? There may be a good reason for it. For example, I had one director of facilities
He said, you didn't spend anything out of this account last year, but now you want it again this year. Why do you need it? He said, well, that's the money for elevator inspections. We only do it every other year. So, okay, you're gonna need it this year. He said, it's so hard to, if you take it out, then you can't get it back the next year. Okay, that's a valid reason. But if you haven't spent it out in the last couple of years, then it doesn't need to be there. Contrarily, if I see an account and it says, look, you've overspent this account every year for the last 3 years, why don't you increase it? Well, we said 2%. Well, yeah, but it's not a realistic budget if it doesn't have actual projections of what's going in that account. Once I get a balanced budget, in a balanced, realistic budget, I'm going to bring it to the finance committee and give it to you to review. I like to maybe schedule it, and it's going to depend on what you like. Schedule a Saturday and spend as much of the day as we need to go through the whole budget. I will also be attending finance committee meetings to go through the budget. So they know the reasons for every single line item, and I can explain any changes. Once I get you to sign off on the budget, once I get the finance committee to sign off on the budget, that's the budget I'm going to bring to town meeting. And I'm prepared to defend my budget on the town meeting floor. It'll go into free cash. Well, this was in the town of Enfield. There were a lot of elevators.
We don't have any.
Okay. But anyway, that's my operating budget model, what I usually do, and bring it to it every year. Now, as far as a capital budget, I've seen too many places that simply have a capital committee and it's a bunch of department heads arguing that I need this and I need this and I need this. If you have a functional capital budget, you really have to start with a list of all of the capital assets of the town. Equipment, buildings, software, anything you've got to replace on a regular basis and is a lifetime of 3, 4, 5 years or more should be on that capital plan. And every line item should show when it was bought and when we anticipate needing to replace it, and replacing it again and replacing it again if off into the future. And how much it costs this time with a reasonable factor for inflation. So it's going to be, all right, we bought this year and in 5 years, it's going to be another 25% or 20%, whatever you factor. And you want to get that capital plan so it's going about the same money every year and it becomes a recurring part of the budget. And once you get it to that stage, typically, depending on the condition of your assets and what you have, it's typically about 4 to 8% of the budget of the total budget, and you project that forward. And if you say, well, this year we don't need to buy all of that, well, then you still budget it and put it into a capital stabilization fund. So 2 years down the road, when your percentage is not going to be enough to cover all the things you need, then you draw from the capital stabilization fund. You want it to be a fixed part of the budget every year.
Grant funding is crucial to much of the work of municipal government. Walk us through how you would successfully apply for and then manage grants.
Grants, first you got to find them. And sometimes they're tough to find, but there are places to look. MMA is a good resource. The state website has a grant funding area where you can look up available grants. Once I find them, I decide whether I have the expertise to write them. Typically, if it's a fire department grant, I might ask or collaboratively do it with the fire chief because they take specific knowledge. There have been times on grants where I have big grants where I found it useful to hire a grant manager for example, about, I think it was starting in 05 through through 08, we did a downtown redevelopment project in Ludlow. And we got $1 million a year over for 4 years. So that was a great project, and we really was looking fantastic. Unfortunately, it hasn't been maintained as it should have been, but I can't do anything about that. But what I did is I hired a fellow named John Ryan from Breezeway Farm Consulting in Shutesbury. And he had been a former grant reviewer with the state. And he just knew so much more than I did. You know, he knew how many points we would get when we actually submitted it. He knew we were going to get that grant because of the number of points. And he tailored the grant to actually maximize the points and know we were going to get that. For example, I said, well, it would be nice to extend the area down the street and put in some parallel parking for the for the then senior center. We have a new senior center now, but the senior center at that time, and he said, no, Mike, we can't do that. You'd lose 2 points and the grant wouldn't be viable anymore. So, okay, I'll do it. But no, smaller grants I write myself, and I'm pretty good at, you know, it's, you lay out the case. Why do you need the money and what are you going to do with it? I found I can remember one grant I have not Athol. I found because the regional school, we had I think 6.5% increase, and you were eligible for this grant from DESE, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, if you had an increase of, I think, 5%. So we were above the threshold, and I applied for that grant, and I got $50,000 because I was they only had $50,000. I was the only one in the whole state that applied for it. So that was really nice. So, you know, I've been successful in getting grants. Some places I haven't been successful. For example, Sterling, because Sterling is a wealthy community. You know, they tend to give it the grants to areas, you know, that have a lower socioeconomic status. Now, I know from looking at the statistics that the average income here is below the state average. So I would anticipate having some success.
Great, thank you.
Just out of curiosity, like when you hire a grant, did they get a percentage of the grant?
No, he worked for a fixed amount per hour.
Oh, okay.
He just said, we signed a contract. No, it wasn't on a percentage.
That's not my question. That was.
We just.
Something that popped into my
Well, I don't know if other grant do it differently, but John did it this way.
Sometimes they.
Well, I've heard of it. That's why I asked.
All right, this is why you get slapped for tangents.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, I went on course. Okay, the town administrator plays a crucial role in the procurement and contracting of goods and services. How do you ensure a town complies with 30B and other procurement laws while still getting the best deals?
I would assume that I would be the chief procurement officer. Certainly, I've been certified a number of times. I currently am not because I was working in Connecticut, but I'm very versed in the laws and I'm very on top of the laws. Every grant, everything's going to go through me, and no one's getting certified or being designated as an assistant procurement officer unless I know for certain that they're going to do things properly. I know that you gave me a question to answer an essay question that had something to do with this. It sounded like perhaps it was something you'd encountered here before. I don't know if it was, but you know, at the end I said, look, I would hold the town administrator responsible for what had happened here because he's the chief procurement officer and was obviously not paying attention. So you have to be on it. Every contract is going to be reviewed by me. Everything that comes every bid is coming through my office and is going to be reviewed. Now, not everything has to be bid. I've had a lot of success in using some of the cooperative buying associations, Boston Police, Plymouth County Commissioners, Houston Galveston, and Sourcewell. So I'll typically go to all of those and look at all of the vendors and see who's getting the best prices. And it's not all, right now, it's not all about prices. There's also a lot of supply chain issues. So sometimes it's the best price you can get what you want for. When I was in Enfield, we're trying to buy a 16-foot mower, back ordered for 1.5 years. I'm currently on the building committee for the new Ludlow Senior Center. The building's been open for 1.5 years, but we can't close out the project because we've been waiting 1.5 years for a generator. I can't buy a generator because that's the last part of the project. The pad's sitting there, the electronics are all sitting there, but we can't get the generator in. So that's another issue. It's not just for procurement. It's not just buying the stuff, it's getting the stuff. But no, I'm familiar with all the cooperative buying, and I certainly look to get the best deal. I have no problem. I know the levels for doing an RFP have gone up considerably in the last 7 years that I was working in Connecticut. But for the town rules there, I had to do an RFP for anything over $15,000. So I've done a lot of RFPs.
Yes, we're ready.
Massachusetts municipal government has to conduct business in accordance with open meeting law and public records law. How would you make sure town government is run efficiently and effectively while still maintaining transparency?
I don't think they're in any way mutually exclusive, but I know those statutes very well, and I make sure they are followed. Was an interesting thing about Sterling. It was almost a game there where there are people there that would try and trip up the town as far as open meetings and file complaints. It was a game to some people. I recall one person. Now, for example, when you start the meeting, you have to ask if anyone is recording. Do you do that regularly?
We usually announce that we are recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you also would ask if someone else in the audience is recording. Well, we had one person stand up, hold up his phone and say, "I'm recording this meeting." And as a result, the chair did not ask that question. He then immediately filed a complaint, which was upheld by the AG. So it was, yeah. So we were very careful about following every single rule.
I just remember to ask. I always announce it. I always announce it, but I don't remember to ask. That's a good reminder. Okay, in your career, please relate the most sensitive or critical issues / crisis that either affected or had the potential to significantly affect your relationship with your team, and what was the outcome? The second part of that is what techniques did you employ to resolve the issue or crisis, and please be specific.
I think the most difficult personnel problems are always the worst. I can handle anything, but personnel issues are always the worst. I won't talk about the town, but the worst issue I had had to do with a police officer, a sergeant, a female sergeant, who was having a lot of issues with the men under her command, and they were all men, and they did not get along very well. I was privy to some information about her medical issues, specifically some PTSD. And the union was fighting to have her disciplined, and I had to basically keep them calmed down. And I was the town manager at this point, so it was all up to me. This was not going through the Board of Selectmen. The police chief reported directly to me, not to the board. And I appointed him. So the police chief and I knew, and we were trying to get her the help she needed, but it was causing a lot of issues with the men under her command. It wasn't as successful as I would have hoped it to be, because she ended up taking early retirement. It wasn't something that was, it could have been worse. But I had the objectives, of helping her, but also protecting the town from possible lawsuits. So it was a very delicate balance. I did end up putting her on suspension mainly for some action she took that were very inappropriate against some of the men, specifically posting things online, accusations about the people reporting to her. And I, at that point, I knew she couldn't effectively lead. The union demanded that she be fired, which I couldn't do, knowing what I knew. Ultimately, I did get the town protected. I came to an agreement with her as far as the retirement, and she ended up filing suit, but not against the town. She sued the police union. And I know I was at a different community by that point, and I was called as a witness. I don't know how it ultimately turned out. I think they settled on something, but it was a really difficult situation that I had to very carefully navigate through to protect the town.
I'm up. Given the position profile and job description, what qualifications set you apart as a candidate?
Well, I have a lot of experience. I've been town administrator. I've been with a large community. Ludlow was the largest community I was in. It's about 22,000 people. I've been a town manager, so I have that level of experience. I've done a lot of I've written bylaws. I've done everything you can do in the town. I'm a very careful administrator. Give you an example of that. I was, as the town manager in Uxbridge, I signed the payment warrants, which I'm sure you do here. I reviewed every bill. And we had an accountant at that time that I didn't particularly get along with, but the finance director liked him. Shortly after I left, I think the practice stopped because he ended up embezzling over $1 million from the town. I can give you his name, but I'm not going to announce it here. He's in jail now. Anyway, in addition, I have to my experience, I'm experienced with finance. I have an MBA in finance from the Eisenberg School. I have a law degree and I have a lot of experience with municipal law. I typically, wherever I go, reduce the cost because I do whatever legal work I can myself, including representing the town before various state boards and things like that. So I think that's a plus. That's all I can really say. I've been doing this a long time.
So sit right up here. Oh, there for president.
I don't think we're going to work that out. I think.
So just want to see how good you work.
Yes.
See all set?
What's that?
Yes, we could.
What would you say the difference between a manager and a leader? Tell the second half is, tell us about a time when you had to demonstrate leadership.
Well, that actually was one of the issue that but yeah, management is really putting processes in place so things run smoothly. Management would be, for example, I know you have a lot of volunteers here. And the thing about volunteers is they volunteer as long as they can volunteer. And then, so I imagine you have a fair amount of turnover. I insist that wherever I am, there are written processes in place. That's management. That's keeping things, so there's written rules in place and processes that are documented. But leadership is what you demonstrate when things go south. Yeah, leadership is the ability to really keep your head in what did Tennyson say, when all about you are losing theirs. So that's what I consider important. There are going to be crises that happen. You don't have sewers, but sewer breaks are terrible. They happen. And you've got to really jump on it. And for example, you can prepare for it ahead of time, but you have to get assets in place quickly to get trucks in, to truck around the break so they can fix it. Because people are not going to stop flushing their toilets. But similar things are going to happen. I saw that the town has its own internet.
Yep, we have.
So when if something goes down, that's got to be fixed very quickly, because how many residents are working from home now? They can't afford to have the internet go out. You've got to have it absolutely reliable and get it fixed immediately. And that's true of all kinds of things. Water, anything. You've got to jump on it and get it done immediately. And at that point, it's not necessarily collaborative. It's like, do that, we need this done. You can say it nicely, but it has to be done now.
So our last question for you is, what questions do you have?
I know that you're building a new, what was it, fire facility?
Fire
Yeah.
/ highway?
Fire and highway, yes. Where does that stand right now?
So we're currently, we have hired an OPM. We have some engineers working on drawing up a plan, as well as a building committee. When our last town meeting, when we went to town meeting to talk about, moving some funds from our building stabilization, which has been, obviously money aside for the project, there's some concern about the overall cost. We don't know an overall cost because we're not that far yet of that process. That's part of the, process yet where we can, give that number out. So there's some confusion, I think, still, and some frustration around that. So we sort of reset after that meeting and tried to take more of those people onto the committee so that we could, keep everyone. We don't know if we will divide the two projects or keep them together. I think there's more support for the fire aspect that's, so honestly, that is, it's a bit controversial of a topic. I would say probably one of the only controversial topics that we're currently facing, thankfully. But a very much necessary one. The fire department is on replaced yesterday. So.
I will tell you, I have quite a bit of experience with building public buildings. In my career, I built, or with committees, with the town, a high school, high school in Uxbridge, an elementary school in Athol, large expansion and renovation of the historic Carnegie Library in Athol. It's now up 3 times as big as it was. We've kept the original front, but that's about all. Let's see, 2 senior centers, one in Sterling and recently, and I wasn't the town administrator when it was built, but I was on the building committee from day one till it opened, and that was the senior center building committee in Ludlow. So I know the process, and it's not just building the building, and I think you know that it's building public support for it. And it's really getting a scope to the project that you can really sell to the town, so they feel that they're at a reasonable level. Now, honestly, the senior center director in Ludlow wanted a 24,000 square foot building, but we looked at it and said, we can't afford that. We want to build a building for under $10 million, and we set a figure of 9.8 to keep it under 10 million because we thought we could sell that to the townspeople. And we did. It got a positive vote for a debt exclusion. That got us an 18,000 square foot building. It's a nice building. But you know, you've got to really understand what the public is willing to accept. And what is your time frame on this?
It was 4 years.
Oh, I meant for the recruitment project, for making a decision on the town administrator.
Oh, for making a decision on the time straight. So, like I said, before, we'd like to do it as soon as possible. However, we are feeling more confident. Ira's doing an amazing job, so we're feeling like, we have a little bit of time. So, I mean, we could do 6 to 8 weeks, if Ira agrees to that, if you'll stay for that long.
Don't be so confident.
Don't be so confident. But I mean, we'd like to move soon. Ideally, we had wanted to, have someone in time to, shadow our former, town administrator, but that didn't work out. So that was our initial plan.
Well, honestly, when I first started in Ludlow, Board of Selectmen had arranged for me to shadow the old town administrator. In other words, I think they gave her 50 hours of time for me to sort of onboard with her. I only used 8.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm a pretty quick study. But I do, in the spirit of full disclosure, I have a couple of other interviews this week. One in Southampton and one in Mendon. I think they wanted to see me because it's right next to Uxbridge where I had been. So I know the area fairly well.
Thank you for letting us know. Appreciate it.
Appreciate that.
No, I wouldn't want me reading in the paper.
Yes, no worries. We appreciate it.
No.
Yeah, if you don't have any other questions for us, I think.
It's a number of questions to the screening committee, so I think, you know, I really got answered the questions that I had at the time. As for the turnpike exit, it would be nice, but and it's certainly doable. I know a number of legislators from the area because I've worked in a lot of communities. And frankly, I know Senator Oliveira doesn't go out this far, but he's a friend of mine. He helped me gather signatures when I ran for moderator the last time. So no, I have reasonable connections on Beacon Hill.
I think that also is a matter of being public support. We tend to be about 50-50 with that, so.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's the will of the town. I mean, if
Yeah,
Unless you want to go away in your house.
no.
Well, the thing with, because I was very active in support of that, and it was surprising, a lot of the old townies think that, you know, the old town atmosphere and this, that, and the other thing. And they don't realize that we're not growing. And we're mostly a retirement community. And if there's no school, we have a gateway system, regional system, but there's no school in town, that deters people from moving in. So we were thinking on the lines of easy access so that people can commute to work and that, and they just jump on and go to work and be able to get off at home. There's other, as you know, in the Boston area, they have a lot of non-commercial exits for that reason. And so we were hoping for something like that, but then our representative at the time, he kind of played lowball. And Smitty, I like him as a person, as a politician. I think he's got his head somewhere in a dark place. Because we had a meeting in Lenox, and there were people from Beckett, and they were considering entrance exit in Beckett up by Altieri Road, and then there was the Blanford one, And so at the meeting, there were a bunch of retired people from Beckett. Well, he called for a vote. So all the retired people said no. So he accepted that, but then we had to have a ballot. And I'm saying to myself, well, that's not fair. You know, you just can't go to 10 people when you have a town of, what are they, 600-700,
Yeah.
and call for a vote of 10 people. And then they decide for the other 600-700. And then here, we had to have a ballot question, which was fine. But I just didn't think it was fair.
Yeah,
Well,
it's kind of a moot point.
it is a mixed blessing. Ludlow does have an exit. And, you know, it can cause some congestion, particularly when it's 30 miles between,
Yeah.
you know, between exits. Yeah,
You say that, the girl that was working for the turnpike came to put on a demonstration here in the gym with suggestions for the exit, all right? She missed the Westfield exit, she had to drive all the way over to Lee to turn around and come back on Route 20 to get here.
Because she didn't know how to turn around.
Yeah.
but it made it so
She didn't know
bad.
how
Many times.
I did that about 30 years ago. I'll never do it again.
You should be able to get off behind my motorcycle. Now they got all the cement things. I can't even get off there.
Yeah, you're being recorded.
Oh, I'm talking, that's what I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Thank you so much.
thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time to come all the way up.
Have a
It's
safe
not
ride.
that far. I've driven a lot farther.
Yeah.
When I was in Uxbridge, it was over an hour.
Oh, yeah. I drive
You
about.
you love 146, right? You love that with passion.
Oh, yes. That's not a bad road.
Well,
thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Nice to meet you. my
Mike,
friend.
Thank you.
I might just mention to Mike that one of the three
Oh, yeah.
candidates was not able, due to a family emergency, was not able to be here tonight. So I think the board is,
We're gonna meet next week, yeah.
is extending the interview process to next Monday, so.
Oh, I wish you'd have called me. I would have come out early.
Yeah, sorry,
Oh,
I know.
well, that's okay, they got other.
We got our-
other business.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Have a great night. Did you need us to accept I saw that we got the grant did you need us to approve that tonight?
Yes.
And then we're good, okay. So was it on the agenda? We're on-
It was on the second page,
Sorry.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Put it on there and then forgot about it.
So motion to approve the community compact IT grant, in the amount of $80,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, this is one of those annoying contracts. So I sign here, signature date, okay, signature here. The date.
Just throw money at anybody.
Here. But then I never am sure on this one if I'm supposed to write anyone else in for. I can't talk right. Am I supposed to write anyone else back here as far as? Being able to sign for it?
It's on the first page, there's a covered letter.
This page. So this one where I'm supposed to allow for an authorized signature, I don't think I have to. I don't think I do because since you're doing interim, right? So normally I would have written like Christopher in here, so like Christopher can sign
Yeah.
for any contracts to do this. But at the time, I don't think I'll, write- or like if it had to do with the fire department, I might write like the fire chief. But I think, do I just leave this blank and sign it?
But I would say how to do this and very much. Which.
So any contractor must provide the same individuals who are authorized as legal representatives, so I think I just put myself.
And we just let 2 lawyers out of this corner.
Michael would have probably known the answer to this. And then this one, I think I need to be sealed, so I don't think I can sign this one tonight.
Let's get it, you could put me down there if you want to, I'm gonna
Okay.
be gone by the time, but.
So I'll do, interim financial.
Why would you be here?
I wrote this one.
Twice a week.
Picture sign.
Springfield.
Rather than nuts.
I
didn't. I'm just a little upset.
So Ira, I'll come in
Probably are.
at some point, just let me know when, if Doris isn't still here, is she?
No, she's not.
No, but-
On the agenda next week.
She just had studied those guys.
She needs to see.
If you want it done tonight, I can sign it as you.
Oh, perfect.
You're
Okay.
notary?
What's our number here? 4279? 4279. Tax is 413, 0908. I don't know that one off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure. I feel confident in that answer. Okay. See what's under. All right, and then the other thing on here was the expenditure report. Fantastic. All right, so then, this meeting is, oh wait, I can't adjourn it. Okay, so I'm gonna sign section signatories for the agreement, this is me.
Yeah, that's what James and Ron are then down to the fire, that's what Brian's like. I don't even know there.
So I sign up for here, bring it forward and type it here. Oh, yes.
I think that's the problem. No, that's.
Okay. Is that it? You gonna use your own pen? You don't want my fifth grade terms? Do I need to sign this one too?
I'm happy to learn. What is Christopher was just sort of. Alone, you just put it all. I never mentioned it.
It's just make a copy of it. There's those two that she.
I want this sealed tonight.
I need to get into the
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Are you collecting these?
The might say.
These are the questions.
Well, they sort of.
Well, we got one more room somewhere.
Yeah, but it's not here.
Yeah, that's for.
I know the other question isn't here, but.
Yeah.
Is in here.
Yes, for, no, she's not in there. You'll get her next week, but yes, I'm guessing he's still on.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a big
Okay.
tax for it.
So actually, before you.
I don't know.
Let's call here.
Well,
Before
before
I
you adjourn, so I'm gonna hold on to
These.
these and I'll be. You recorded your numerical scores. for
Yes,
Yeah.
Each one, so I'll create a little chart for that.
okay,
Is that the way you want it?
yeah, perfect.
But you know, it's very meeting, like we're in here on the whole thing.
And would you, how do you wanna handle,
No, she doesn't.
reference checks? Do you wanna wait until after?
Yeah.
Next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should be done, I mean, it could be done.
Yeah, I know.
There's no reason why you can't pick her up and she's on the ones we are.
I don't think we need to, I think it's a waste of time.
Okay, so wait
Yeah.
until you
Hard to tell on.
got your candidate of choice, and then then we'll go ahead and give you that. Okay.
Huh? It's on the page.
Here, do you want mine?
Say you could, if it's done, like it's easy, something else, I'm gonna interrupt you.
No worries. Our tax.
I don't know what this would be. That's why. Yeah, that's why. That's the
That's
easy.
just.
So I don't need it.
This is.
No, it's just for your- yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Still need to do it. Yes, sir.
We're done.
Just bang the gavel, make it official. Thank you.
May 14.
Yep.
I don't even know, take 14, hold on a second.
Yeah, you wanna, frame that?
Tomorrow, after I get to work.
Okay, you have a full, we couldn't hear him at all, so I'm gonna watch the YouTube.
She might, you can ask her. She's a pretty organized gal.
I know it. Thank you so much. This is-
Right.
Thank you.
That's how
It's like,